What's up, Nick? Oh. Yeah, I'll probably catch at least the second half. I actually kind of forgot about it today. Sundays, we set aside the daytime for the family, so we've been out grilling food, cutting grass, doing yard work with the wife and son. Said get lost doing that. Forget about what's going on for the day. Sad because my Tennessee water is almost gone. Look, man, as far as that goes, I don't know how much easier or not easier it is with a bent bar and a Jefferson block pull versus a double overhand off the ground. What I do know is I said that it was hook grip the first time he did it, and clearly it wasn't. So I was wrong, and that's it. Mobility muscle release on a consistent basis. I mean, I do the McGill Big 3 as part of my warm up, but that's more bracing than mobility. I do some dynamic warm ups, but that's about it. I don't really do anything right now strictly for mobility. Right now, 3 days hitting the weights, and then 5 days I go in 2 days and do cardio. I do cardio on all the days I hit weights as well, but on my off days I do a little bit longer cardio. And when I say cardio, for me is 99% of the time it's on the elliptical machine. Could be like a 1 mile sprint. Could be 30 minutes at a good clip. I think I did 4.25 miles my last 30 minutes, which is right at 7-minute miles. And then, the other day I did 50 minutes and it was just over 5 miles, just nice and slow. Just depends on the day. I really don't have like a set schedule of what I do my cardio. It's just how I'm feeling that day. Billy, it's on the elliptical machine though. I don't know. I love the elliptical machine. It's fun as fuck to me. So it's not that bad. We actually have the apparatus to do car deadlifts at the gym. We have the frame and stuff. We've hosted 2 strongman meets, and our last one we had car deadlifts as one of the events. They used my car for the deadlift. Yeah, that Fat Grip trap bar is fucking legit for frying grip. I've been intending to incorporate some fat grips in my training. I've just not been training with my partners as much, and one of my partners is the one who has the fat grips, and we usually only train together now, like when I'm doing squats and stuff, not on my grip days. Like I said, I don't know the merits of bent bar, not spinning, from blocks. I don't care. I called it hook grip. It was not hook grip. That's where it is. Whether it's deceitful or feigning grip strength, I don't know. I do not know the merits of that argument, so I'm not going to say nothing. I was wrong about the hook grip. The snake diet. I'm actually in the snake diet motivation group with that Cole guy who started it. It's anorexia. I mean, it's basically fast until you don't have fat on your body no more. I don't, yeah, you probably shouldn't snake diet. Of course, people are getting results because they're fucking starving themselves. Does he do the snake diet or does he say he does the snake diet? That's two different things. I train on both, Zach. We have a deadlift bar. Sometimes I train on it. Sometimes I train on the stiff bar. Generally, if I'm in off season and doing like rep work and stuff, I usually use the stiff bar. Like I said, Annihilator, he says he does it. If he actually does it, I don't know. It is not a good diet. There's nothing backing it other than another charismatic salesperson. Weightlifting's fantastic. I love it as a sport. It's very technical. It's fun to watch. The athletes, I like the way they look, their physique. I love weightlifting. I've never practiced it. And at this point, I'm so deep into powerlifting that that'll be the only sport from here on out that I'll be specializing in. I think as it pertains to powerlifting, weightlifting movements can be fun to do in the off season and probably, have some sort of merit and benefit. But as the sport itself, I absolutely love it. Yeah, I don't think Cole has any qualifications, and for any of you guys who think that Alex is kind of out there and snake oily, fucking Cole Robinson, holy shit. That snake diet is a crazy bunch. Zach, I don't get much out of a deadlift bar, but the way I deadlift, I don't utilize the deadlift bar as good as I could. And honestly, if you're not deadlifting up into the 600s, you're probably not going to get a whole lot from it anyway, unless you stagger the weights on the outside of the bar. It's going to be different per person. Some people like Yuri, I'm sure he gets a bunch out of it because his sumo technique is amazing, and where he grips inside, there's a lot of whip before it's breaking the floor. And I really think sumo deadlifters will get more out of a deadlift bar in general than conventional deadlifters will. If you're slow off the floor on your deadlifts, get faster. That's my tip. I like, it's generic, but deficit deadlifts. For some people, direct grip work is needed. Not everybody. I need direct grip work. I have these big palm and these little fat sausage fingers, which are not conducive to grip leverages. So I definitely need to do direct grip work, and I can tell when I've been doing it versus when I've been slacking. Some people will never ever have to do direct grip work. As it pertains to powerlifting, doing direct grip work would never be a bad thing. Just in general, having better grip strength is always going to be good. But as it pertains to powerlifting, not everybody will have to do it. I already answered about weightlifters, but I think weightlifters are awesome. I love it as a sport. The athletes, I like their physiques. I like the explosiveness of it. And as far as watching, I would rather watch weightlifting than powerlifting. I think Dan Green once said block pulls for people slow off the floor and deficits for people with weak lockout. Seems weird, so I try to block pulls in one. It's my fiber. I've done block pulls like for a whole wave. When I hired a coach because my deadlift was stalled for a long time, so I hired a coach. and I wasn't a good at lockout. I was fast off the floor, and he had me do block pulls, and it sort of fixed my lockout, which makes logical sense. But I think deficits are underrated as far as lockout goes too, because a lot of people like me rely on the momentum off the floor to lock it out. So coming from farther off the floor and theoretically in a worse starting position, there's not as much speed. So I can see deficits, helping the lockout as well, being that it forces you to lock it out with your glutes and not necessarily have that speed off the floor just flying up there. I'm going for the Celtics because I'm a LeBron hater. I said it. I'm 5'11". I don't have any experience with T3. Direct grip work, like people like doing wrist curls and static holds, shit like that, rolling thunders. Yeah, Dan Green is a freak. I think a lot of like these top tier guys, like the very, very top cream of the crop, a lot of them can do pretty much anything and they're going to be there. And what I would typically suggest to somebody is not picking one individual lifter and be like, oh, this lifter says to do this, so I should copy it. Look at, like, particularly as it pertains to your weight class, if you're a competitor, look at, the top 10 to 15 in your weight class. See if any of them have the same coach. See what their coaches are programming them. And see out of, like, the 10 to 15, if 7 or 8 of them are following the same type of training or using the same type of exercises, then it's probably pretty legit. It's hard dealing with the freaks sometimes. Not saying that they don't train smart or they don't have good ideas as far as it pertains to training, but some of those guys are just going to be top level guys regardless. Do pin squats and bench press increase 1 rep max? If so, how to correctly implement? What do you mean? Increase 1 rep max on what? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to help increase your 1 rep max. Should a lifter implement good mornings? Accessory work is going to be based on your personal weaknesses. I know everybody wants these generic, like, this exercise is the best exercise, etc. But it's going to be what your weaknesses are as to what your accessories are going to be. I am not an expert as far as coaching goes. When I run into a problem and I don't know how to fix it, I hire a coach. I am much more athlete than coach. I'm pretty good at programming. I've programmed people with good success. Not anybody that's advanced. But as far as, like I said, being an expert coach and diagnosing and fixing, I probably know a little more than the average person. But as far as expert, not even close. I looked at MindWire. I had never heard of MindWire until this whole shit started. I mean, I feel bad for the kid in a sense that he could be training better, but does he idolize Alex? I don't know. I'm assuming, making assumptions, and he wanted to train like him, so it is what it is. Like, I've seen like 2 videos of his, so I really don't know. Tips on increasing appetite. I've never had a problem there, but if marijuana is legal where you're at, smoke weed. Do cardio. Cardio helps increase appetite. I'm always super hungry after a cardio session. Annihilator, if I don't know something, I will say I don't know it. And JJ is that's his job. He's educated. He's went to school for that. That's what he does. Like I said, if I do know something, if I can help you somewhere, I will say it. And if I don't know it, I will tell you I don't know it. Again, I am much more athlete, if you want to call powerlifters athletes, than coach. What's good, Alec? Just smoke weed. That's right. You want to increase your appetite. If it's legal where you're at. I've never done floor presses. I don't have an opinion on floor presses because I've never done them. For my bench press, I do bench press, I do Larson presses, I do close grip bench presses and or close grip Larson presses, and I do upper back accessories. That's what I do for bench press. I really don't get too far off into variations, and I pretty much exclusively do Larson presses in the off season now, because it's easier on my lower back. Because my competition setup, I get in a really tight arch, and it wreaks havoc on my lower back. So I save it for meet prep, and I Larson press in the off season so I can save my lower back for squats and deadlifts. I can't give you only lifting tips. I don't know how. Yes, I drink coffee. I grew up in Florida. I'm in Tennessee now. What routine do you suggest to get a naturally enhanced look? All of them. Every routine. Which lift have you had the least failed reps? I don't know. I think over the last 2 years, I've failed 2 reps total. And they were both on the platform. I try not to fail reps at all, period, in training. So I suck the most at deadlifts, if that helps any. Best non-isometric core exercises. Don't know, bro. Like, the only direct core work I do, I either do ab wheel or I do weighted planks. Any other core work I get is through, squatting, deadlifting, and that stuff. Zach, excuse me. I don't really go by percentages. So, like I said, to have 2 days, in that 6 to 8 rep range, 5 or 6 sets, and then your, light volume day on your third day, and see how that works for you. I've had great success benching 3 times a week, 2 of them, with moderate, that 6 to 8 sweet spot rep range, and then a fluffy buff kind of day. Ever consider pulls from a specific height in relation to the knee? I just do deadlifts. When I had a coach, he had me do block pulls, and he measured them 5 inches off the ground. That's the only experience I have with pulling not from the floor. How to grow hamstrings without ass getting too big. Not a bodybuilder. Don't know how to grow muscles in that sense. Don't know. Why delay a plateau if you're going to stall in the same place but sooner? And why is the delay in plateauing worth the extra progress when you can get there in the same amount of time, if not sooner? I don't think you're going to stall in the same place. I think, like I mentioned in my video, if you're starting to run a 5x5, if you start and give yourself room to grow, like I said, for me in particular, if I started on bench 365 5x5 and gave myself room to grow, my last one, I got to 465 or 470. I don't remember for 5x5. Whereas if I would have started at 405 or 415, I don't know for sure, but I imagine I probably would have stalled out, much sooner, 20 pounds before I got there. Zach, I've actually trained at Maxed Out Gym. I've been there twice. Once before Rubish got there, and once after, but I've never trained with him. I have a group of friends who trains down there. The guy that was coaching me at one time, I met him down there and trained. So I've been down there a couple of times, just never at the same time as Pete's been there. But there is a fantastic bench presser named Michael Bales who trains at that gym, who's been trying to help Pete out with his bench. Michael Bales benched 565 in a 308-pound weight class at my gym at one of the meets we hosted. So, yeah, there's a great bencher down there. If I'm not mistaken, Pete's had some problems with injuries, right? I could be wrong there, but I thought that was the case. But I think he's been working on them a lot more. Him and those Bulgarian split squats. Favorite rowing variation, I like the chest-supported row because there's no spinal load, and just saves a little more CNS for, practice on the big three rather than doing a traditional barbell row. Not saying it's superior to a barbell row, just saying for me in particular, and what I train with, I like that it's easier on the spine. You don't need a belt for any lift, but you can maximize your potential with a belt on, having something to brace against. Yeah, Pete's traps are absolutely ridiculous, and they look ridiculous on camera, and his, I imagine, would look even more ridiculous in person. Robin, perhaps, but I'd rather spend 8 weeks of not stalling, or even 12 weeks of not stalling and making progress versus going 4 weeks, stopping, resetting 4 more weeks, and maybe or maybe not getting the same result, getting to the same place. I don't like when progress ceases. Maybe it's mental for me, but I like the slow build up. I'm one of those, as a recreational lifter, I've even made a video on it, competing only once a year and, good long off seasons, slow build ups. I've just had a lot of success that way. I personally, my opinion, I think it's better that way. I think it's more rewarding, and, mentally it makes me feel stronger. I've not read the article that Greg just put out on sumo versus conventional, so I don't know. Have I ever considered going the enhanced route? Maybe briefly. The legalities, I'm 32. I've never really stalled in my progress. I've hit plateaus here and there, but where I've plateaued in this lift, I may have still been gaining in that lift. So I've just never really felt a need to do it. And I've held my own with most of the people I know that have jumped on it anyway. It's not really that big a deal to me. This is just a hobby. I don't care enough to be like one of the elite. Not saying I would ever get there even with it, but it doesn't matter to me that much. Thoughts on TRT? I mean, if you're old and your testosterone is low, why wouldn't you? And that's just in general, not necessarily as it applies to lifting. No problem, Robin. I love discussing shit like that. I have a little knowledge about. Should I invest in a good bench? I've got old videos. I think I privatized a lot of them, but I used to train on a shitty bench, and I got to benching like 450 on it. If you're going to compete, I would invest in a really good competition bench. If you're not going to compete in powerlifting, you can make do with something cheaper, no problem. What advice would I give a tall woman trying to build muscle? Which zones to maximize? Beyond my knowledge, lift weights in a hypertrophic manner and eat food. It's the best I can give you. Left AC joint. Acting like huge faggots. I don't bench like a potato, but I've grinded in my lifting days the past couple of years. Am I fucked? Don't know. We have a Donnie Thompson fat pad bench at our gym, and my poor short legs have a hard time reaching the ground on it. Doing Larson presses, it feels nice having the support there, but I don't really like it for competition benching. Yeah, the fat powerlifters are people. That was like one of my few shots at really trying to market myself, and it failed, and I was just like, whatever, I'll keep uploading anyway. Good times, that video. Do you think doing front squats will help with deadlift specific training? I don't see why it wouldn't. Front squats are fantastic. I love front squats. They're awesome. I'm glad your boyfriend gives better advice. I am not an expert. I don't pretend to be. You want to know how to get strong. You want to know how to gain weight. I'm pretty good there. Pretty good with programming. As far as bodybuilding type shit or having in-depth knowledge of why certain things work, like I said, I'm more athlete than coach. I don't necessarily care why things work. If something works, I use it. And if I see results, I keep using it. I haven't had my blood tested in years, so I don't know. Don't know. I look like Dennis Cornelius. We're built kind of similar. We both look like we don't even. And we're both named Dennis, so go figure. Built like the Michelin Man, and I want to get stronger. Am I in the right place? Well, you probably found the right place. Just open up a supplement line and make up words, instant riches. It seems to be how it's going. No, I don't do the vertical diet. I do eat Monster Mash from time to time, but I do not follow the vertical diet. That wasn't me. When I diet, I use intermittent fasting. Markimus, yeah, I've never taken any AAS, and I don't plan on doing it. My upper back accessories, pull-ups, chest-supported rows, lat pull-downs, seated cable rows, face pulls, and from time to time I'll do some single-arm dumbbell rows. And I guess right now I'm doing hang cleans. They could probably be counted as an upper back accessory as well, even though I'm doing them primarily for my grip. No, I don't consider myself any fucking animal or warrior. I'm a person who lifts inanimate objects. I don't think there's much difference between safety bar squats and front squats. Honestly, for powerlifting, you're probably better off doing safety bar squats just because You know, it's easier on your shoulders and stuff. You don't have to get into weird positions with the clean grip or trying to choke yourself out with a cross grip. I just personally enjoy doing front squats. Can you reduce the number of... Well, I lost it. Reduce the number of workouts in a week as a deload instead of decreasing intensity. Decreasing anything, I guess you could do for a deload, but for me, when I deload, I generally don't put nothing, 60%. Usually not even higher than 50% really on a deload week on the bar. There is such thing as a horizontal diet. That's where you lay on your bed and eat ice cream. I'm just kidding. The only odd lift I like doing right now is Zercher. Feels awesome carrying the bar into the hole. Have you tried it? And is it comparable to an actual front squat? I don't know. I've never done Zerchers. I can't speak on it. Thoughts on snatch grip high pulls? Again, something else I've not done, but generally if Olympic weightlifters are doing a movement, I would go with them and imagine that it's probably pretty good. I am not a demon, unfortunately. What did I do to squat 7? I squatted... My last meet, I squatted 775 when I was peaking, and this was in reps, so this throws the extra wrinkle into it. I basically just went through a peaking phase with my non-rep squat, but every, let's see, it's 12 weeks. I think I wrapped up 4 times in the 12-week peak on my squats, and I knew I was going to open with 700 pounds. So every rep day I just worked up to a 700-pound single, and then my non-rep days I just ran through my peaking program with unwrapped squats, which is basically I do 4 weeks of 5x5, which now as my weights are heavier I'm going to change that to 3x5. But 4 weeks of 5x5, followed by 3 weeks of 3x3, followed by 3 weeks of singles and doubles, and that's my generic plan for peaking. Doritos. Not really a big fan of Cheetos. Been lifting for about a year. Can't seem to progress on my deadlift. Stuck on 315 for 5. Any advice? What does your deadlift training look like? It's hard to give advice without knowing that. It is not an aurochs on my chest. It's it's just a regular ox. How do you get your girlfriend into lifting? I don't know. My wife just likes doing things like that. She trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before I got with her. Had her on a couple of my videos a few weeks ago. She's not as into it as I am, but she's always going to like a dance class, lifting. I said she used to train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Why is that I have been lifting for years and I'm nearly an expert in lizard crawls, yet I'm still without a girlfriend? I don't know. Is it lack of bank account and credit score, maybe? I don't know how they could resist the expert lizard crawl. I am not an expert on telling you when is a good age for kids to lift safely. I'm not going to say that. I don't know. David, I don't know enough about Nether Beast. Like I said on my video, scrolling through my phone and my uploads, I literally never heard of Nether Beast before that happened. And I never watched anything other than the videos people made about him. So I don't know. I can't answer that. Don't know enough about the guy at all. For the most part, as far as YouTube fitness people, I would just defer to Eric as my generic champion to fight another YouTube fitness personality. I was lifting when I was 4. 31, I think, is perfectly fine. I don't have a longest lizard crawl for time. So you do convention. You only do 10 reps total conventional per week. I think that's where your problem is. You're probably not doing enough practice of the actual movement. 10 reps, I can confidently say, is not enough, especially being a beginner, to see, efficient use of that movement. Again, David, I don't know Nether. I've never followed him, never watched any of his videos. So, like I said, I just default to Eric for YouTube fitness personalities. Why does my bench press hurt when I lower the bar to my forehead? Jesus Christ. Do I think that Alex's overall total is higher than mine? What is an overall total? I don't know. If you spent 30 years with your parents, dude, I'd just keep milking it. Fuck paying bills and shit. Real life is hard. Man of leisure, rest is important. You've got to get the rest. Again, I personally like a 5x5 linear progression. If you're having issues with the recovery, you can certainly make it a 3x5 and AMRAP on your last set. Set it up with weights you can start at relatively easy, like I said in my video, so you can keep progressing. But, recovery is everything. I would mitigate volume, keep it recoverable, not go to the gym 2 days in a row, and yeah, do that. Do I think Eric is natty? Why not? I don't have reason to not believe it. What I've seen, his physique is good. It's not like super bodybuilder physique. His lifts are good. They're not super ridiculous out of this world lifts. He's a pretty big guy. He was a D1 collegiate athlete. He's got good genetics. I don't have any reason to not believe him. Should recreational lifters max out? Not with any sort of regularity, but, for fun, run a peaking program and max out. I don't see why not. Again, not something I would be practicing regularly. When I stall on my deadlift doing 5x3 twice a week and adding 5 pounds per session, would a 5x5 once a week and a variation be a good move? You're stalling on 5 sets of 3 twice a week. Where are you at? Like, what do you deadlift? Are you deadlifting 600 plus? Are you in the 300-400s? There's a lot of give and take with intensity and volume, especially as the weights get heavier. I would generically say that if you're stalling on 5x3s, you should probably do more volume. How often should you be adding weight on the bench and deads using linear progression? Like I said, if you start low, start with something you can easily finish. There's no reason you can't add 5 pounds a week for 8 to 12 weeks in a row before you stall. Even sometimes if I know I'm going to run a really long off season, I'll even not add weight except every 2 weeks. Like I'll do the same. I'll do 365 5x5 this week, 365 5x5 next week, and then maybe add weight the third week instead of every week. Annihilator, yeah, if, gun to my head, natty or no, I would say he's natty. But it's the internet. Usually the rule is if somebody is bigger, stronger, faster, or better looking than me, then they're on steroids. And if they're not any of those, they're a weak little piece of shit. Is going after a super total a good way to break a master's old fat lifter? Going after a super total, while I believe would be extremely fun, it's going to take away from one or the other. It's going to, or both really. You can get really good at powerlifting. You can get as good as you can at weightlifting. But if you're training for that super total, you're going to leave, weight on the table on both of them. Fun though, and certainly be an all-around fucking, lifter with a good super total. It's funny, I actually listened to the Super Total Training podcast again today while I was mowing the yard. Funny you brought that up. I do not know who Mark Wood is. Hypertrophy, in my opinion, is a full focus thing and not a thing. Yeah, I'm down with like the power building, the hypertrophy phase into a strength phase, into a peaking phase, into a meet, or just rinse and repeat if you're not going to go into a meet. Or, run a longer hypertrophy phase if your meet's a long way away. Do some cardio, bro! Honestly, I don't know if JJ is particularly strong or not either, but I like his channel because he really does know what he's talking about. He's educated in the field, and he has some great information to pass along. Did 500 a month ago, and I've only been deadlifting for 10 weeks, so again, would a transition to 5x5 once a week with a variation be a good move? If you're stalling on 5x3 and you're lifting about 500 pounds, I really think the extra volume would do you some good. David, at one time I had a screen printer and stuff, and I had big visions, and it had nothing to do with YouTube. Me and a friend were going to start selling t-shirts, and then it just went by the wayside. What do I think the best rep range and such should be for a novice when deadlifting? Again, not necessarily an expert there. I do default to 5x5s. I've never followed any of the starting strength program or Jason's Ice Cream Fitness or anything like that. But as far as a set and rep scheme, I like it. And again, my twist is I like throwing a RPE 9 AMRAP on the last set. Yeah, JJ, I would agree there. Definitely not genetically gifted. I've not watched enough Alan Thrall to have an opinion on him. What's my diet like? Today, I woke up, I made bacon, potatoes, onions, and eggs. 4 eggs, 1 potato, half an onion, ate that, and then I mowed the yard here. I mowed the yard at my rental property, and then me and my wife grilled out. I had a ribeye steak. It was pretty big. I don't remember how big. 2 vegetable kebabs, 7 pizza loaf rolls or pepperoni loaf rolls. They're fucking delicious. Right now I'm just eating mainly whole foods. Today we went a little off. I'm down about 10 pounds. I'm probably going to have to start tracking. I wanted to challenge myself and diet without, tracking macros. And I am good at eyeballing foods and knowing what I'm eating. However, I am bad with the willpower with dieting, so I definitely, the tracking of the macros and calories keeps me accountable. And if I don't see more progress over the next couple weeks that I would like to see, then I'm probably going to go to tracking. And, of course, I will make videos as such. I've made a playlist. There's a public playlist on my channel for my cut from last year. I don't remember. There's probably 10 or 11 videos or so. 40-pound weight loss over 100 days, 120 days, something like that. And I go over macro averages, weight averages. It was very detailed. So if you want to know like how I cut when I serious cut diet, I would go look at that playlist. Blaha's fucking crazy, but some of his advice is true. Blaha regurgitates generic advice for the most part, but it's good advice. He just, Mike Israetel will put something out. Greg Knuckles will put something out. He'll cite a PubMed article, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it gets good advice out to a wider array of people, I guess. As far as why does he look like a potato? For an American man in his 40s, he's probably ahead of the curve as far as that goes. And it was cool seeing his DEXA scan and that shit. He's another one, like, genetically not great genetics. Again, for being a 40-something-year-old man, particularly an American man, if you guys are here in America, you observe 40-year-old American men every day. I think he's doing well. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him calling himself an athlete, to tell the truth. I don't even like referring to myself as an athlete unless using it in the sense of, I'm better at performing things and doing well than knowing why they work. Yeah, Candido's pretty strong. He had that lower back injury, though. Like, his squat used to be... I would imagine without the lower back injury, he'd probably be squatting mid-sevens in sleeves right now at a low weight class. Maybe not mid-sevens, maybe low sevens. I don't know. It's hard to tell. He was a hell of a squatter. Sorry, I'm having a hard time keeping up. If I missed some of you guys' questions, I apologize. I think Clarence would beat up Pete. That's a tough one. Jeez, I want to say Clarence the more physical specimen, but I think Pete's a little more crazy. That would be a good matchup. That's a hard one to call. Our Tao Rose irrelevant lifts. Jesus Christ. Oh. My favorite current lifter, Chucky Welch. I do cardio 5 days a week. On my 3 training days and then my 2 off days from training, I still do cardio. And it is 99% of my cardio is done on the elliptical machine. It's easy on the joints, and I enjoy putting on the headphones and going to work. Anything over 5 reps is cardio. Cardio is cardio. I've never looked at Kinobody's program, so I don't know. How do you handle a fart when squatting? You just let it ride. I don't remember his competition lifts, but I'm pretty sure he was squatting like low 600s, mid 600s maybe, in competition. It's been a long time. I honestly don't remember. Best way to work up to 225 by 15 OHP. I can do 135 by 2. Get a 500-pound bench press first, then start training your OHP. I think barbell lifts don't carry over to real life that well like strongman lifts. That's that whole functional thing. My only argument as far as real life, what do we do in real life? Powerlifting is picking things up and putting them down. And I know a lot of times in real life I have to pick up an object and put it down. I get what you're saying though, as far as the whole, as much as I hate to say functional strength, certainly the barbell lifts don't make you adapted more to carrying a refrigerator or something like that. But again, people who compete aren't necessarily training for real life benefits. I'm training to put more numbers on my total. I really don't care if it translates to real life. And I'm not saying that to be demeaning or derogatory. I just don't. I train to compete. So yeah, I agree. Strongman would carry over better to physical labor jobs. And I was a furniture mover for 5 years. So I can speak on that. If you're crazy strong at most barbell lifts, you will do well at strongman. I think it's a good base to have, but I've seen powerlifters humbled by strongman. There's certainly a learning curve for sure. Camera angles are deceiving as fuck. Like, I can't even front. Alex does look big on camera, but again, that's on camera. You can, again, look how much bigger I look now. I'm a fucking giant, you little peasants. Yeah, David, no doubt. Like, my gym's hosted 2 strongman meets. We're hosting another one this year. I've worked at both of them. I've, walked the yoke back after a competitor failed. I've Husafell stone back. And holding the Husafell stone that the girls were using, something I had never held anything like that before. And it was definitely a new experience, to say. Most strongman programs focus on powerlifting staples combined with some other implements like this one. I don't know there. There's a guy named Dylan Lockard in Greenville, Tennessee. He comes and trains at our gym. I'm friends with him. He finished top 10 of the amateur strongman at the Arnold last year, whenever the last Arnold was. He's like 6'8", 370. Deadlifts 800 pounds. I train with him, and I can assure you, while there are some powerlifting-esque type movements in his programming, it is not anything like just training powerlifting and then doing events once a week. His training does not look like that at all. I don't do cable crunches, so I don't know. If dogs were lift, which breeds would you assign to the big 3? Holy shit. I don't know. Who would squat? That's fucking crazy. Give me a second. I don't know, maybe of course, I'm trying to think of large breed dogs, and I'm not a dog expert by any means. I don't know, man. I'm going to sit here and kill myself thinking of that. Go post that question on my Q&A video if you don't mind, so I see it, and I have time to think on that. I really can't think of that off the top of my head. That's a good fucking question. God damn it, I'm going to have to study now. You're surprised I can do pull-ups at my body weight. I mean, I know a lot of big guys that can do pull-ups. It's not that big a deal. But thank you, I guess. David, I like doing log press. I just, again, I still have this powerlifting goal, and as much as I'm not training powerlifting right now, it's still in the back of my mind. And so I'm trying to, even though I'm cross-fatting more or less, keep a lot of it still powerlifting centric and focused. How to be a better father? Holy shit. Bro, you just got to be there and spend time with your kid, man, and be interested in what he's interested in. Jesus Christ. My friend's pit bull is 125 pounds and just bench 185. Smith machine, is he natural? Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Yeah, you got me. Seriously, that was a hell of a question. Caught me off guard out of nowhere. Again, I'm not a dog expert. Jesus Christ, that was a good question. First thing you would do for your upper back hypertrophy. I like to start with chest supported rows as my favorite upper back movement. Have I ever pulled a car and flipped a tire? No, never pulled a car. Yes, flipped a tire. If you could say one thing to Beta Destiny fanboy that lurk in your comment section, what would it be? Listen, if you have comments or questions about Alex, go leave them on my Q&A video. I'm going to answer all the questions on there, and then we're going to be done with that shit. Unless, somebody shows me just something completely moronic or completely deceptive that is 100% out there, and I feel like people should be in the know. I'm done with that for right now. That's the trolls are going to be around for a while, I'm sure. It is what it is. My thoughts on him have not changed other than I was wrong about the hook grip, and that's all. I was wrong on the hook grip. I apologize about the hook grip. Adios. I can probably row 3 plates. I've not rowed in forever, but I think I rowed 3 plates last time I rowed. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some a row variation this week or something just to see while I'm not doing much. What are my thoughts on Eric Bugenhagen screaming and acting like a maniac before every lift? Getting hyped for a lift is not the same as acting like you're going to war, per se. Some people can confuse the two. In Eric's case, that's his channel. His channel is built on that, and I think a lot of that is showmanship on his part. He got a contract with the WWE. Kudos to him for doing it. I'm sure that played a big part in it. So, yeah. I mean, my meets, it's not unusual for me to scream before a big lift. I typically, let me clear my throat. Like before my 775 squat, let out a big Ric Flair. Woo! RIP headphone users to get hyped for that lift. There's a difference between getting hyped for a lift and thinking yourself as, some sort of warrior or some shit. Two different things, and again, I do think a lot of it is showmanship on his part and has nothing to do with the actual lift itself. Just being a showman, and again, he got a contract with the WWE, so hard to fault him there for going that route. I'm not even going to read that one. Jesus Christ. Kevin Levrone sleeps on the floor with guns before bodybuilding competition. I mean, honestly, if you look at some of my old videos, like there's a video titled, what is the title of it? It's like Deadlifts at Iron Mayhem, Sex and Violence or something like that. And all of us were screaming our lungs off. It's a couple years back, 2 years ago. And we're just fucking screaming like a bunch of fucking jackasses in there. We've all sort of toned that down now. All of our training partners, we're all much stronger now. But, you know, fun times. Arya Tia is a fucking lunatic. How do you get gorilla glutes? Be born a gorilla. I've not watched an Elliot Hulse video in years. I don't even know what he's up to nowadays. All I remember from Elliot Hulse is breathing into your balls. There's some really good lifters that get hype. I mean, KK would get hype as fuck. What's his name? Zahir gets hype. I mean, it's different strokes, different folks. But in Eric's case, I do think it's showmanship. And like I said, he's got a WWE contract. So if you want to get bigger in a certain area, you should work that certain area and you should eat food. George Lehman, the only thing about him is his zest for underage foreign women. But we all have our weaknesses, right? Malanachev, the greatest power lifter of all time. I think whoever has the highest overall total at the moment is the greatest power lifter of all time. I think Malanachev is definitely up there right now. Ray Williams and what he's doing drug tested in sleeves. It's hard to rule him out too. So, and I think over the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to see a lot more freaks coming out of the woodwork, as now we're starting to see money injected into powerlifting. You're starting to see, you know, popularity on YouTube with powerlifters. Like, you can legit make a living powerlifting now, make a decent living powerlifting in some regards if you're the elite of the elite, and know how to market yourself. And given that, you'll see some more genetically advanced athletes going that route, whereas, you know, right now, and probably always to a big extent, you know, if you've got the genetics and capability to play in the NFL and make millions of dollars, why would you even toil with powerlifting? But I think now too, you're starting to see, with YouTube and the popularity of barbell sports, strength sports, things like that, younger kids are starting to get interested in things like powerlifting. I didn't even know what powerlifting was until I was in my mid-20s. I just knew I liked being strong. I bought a bench when I was in my early 20s, and all I ever heard people say was, "How much do you bench?" So me and my partner benched 5 days a week. And played basketball and shit. So, you know, there's going to be a lot bigger totals to come over the next 10, 15, 20 years for sure. What's the best protein supplement to choose from to get big? Food. Are women a key to powerlifting going mainstream? I don't think so. Like, look at the WNBA compared to the NBA. Look at, you know, American football, NFL versus, what is Lingerie Football League, the biggest women's football league, maybe. Bodybuilding, again, no women needed to make it, mainstream. So I will make you a sponsored athlete to help sell booty programs. I'm already sponsored, but I appreciate it. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't need to. My gym owner sponsors me. I don't have to pay meet entries. I got a free pair of lifting shoes. I get free t-shirts from my gym owner. For those of you looking to get sponsored and don't care about shit like internet notoriety and having a discount code on a larger website, small businesses always need tax write-offs, particularly as it comes to the end of the fiscal year. So if you have a meet coming up, or you need a belt, or you need something like that, especially towards the end of the fiscal year, at the end of the tax season, and these small businesses need tax write-offs, go around to small businesses, particularly if you have friends who own small businesses, and you can get free stuff, and you're technically at that point sponsored, even though, it's not some cool discount code for a big lifting website. What is with women leaking during heavy lifts? That's just how women are, dude. That's how their anatomy is. My wife, after she had our son, she's prone to leak a little bit when she laughs or sneezes too hard. David, trust me, Vince Urbank's sister is fucking wacko, but don't know if you follow Lehman on the Facebooks at all, but yeah, he's definitely got a thing for underage foreign girls. It's not unknown. Yes, Tessa and Lehman are both fucking crazy, both of them, no doubt about it. What numbers do I think are good for a junior on bench squat and dead? Go look at Mark McQueen's channel. He's a fucking monster. Look, man, in all seriousness, numbers are relative. I didn't even compete. I didn't even know what powerlifting was as a junior. I didn't have numbers. So, it's not where you're starting at, it's where you're going to finish at. Go look at federation rankings for juniors and, see where you stand. It's hard to say, what are just good generic numbers. Again, it's relative. Yes, I've never taken any anabolics, ever, and I don't intend on it. How did I train through my novice stage? Like a jackass. Look, if you progressively overload, if you eat in a caloric surplus, when you're a beginner novice, you're going to get stronger. Now, it probably wasn't until later on in my novice years where I, figured out that, hey, smart programming will help facilitate this process. But as a novice, leaving that beginner stage into a novice stage, you're still, it's more about consistent work. And if you're putting in consistent work and progressively overloading and eating and resting, you're going to still make gains. Programming becomes more important. And I'm not saying it's not important, because it is important. Training smart at an earlier stage is certainly better than not training smart. But it becomes even more important the more advanced you get and the harder those gains are to come by. I've not been to a commercial gym in years. I love my gym. My gym is amazing. I was training at a commercial gym before I went there. As it goes, I was training at a commercial gym called Shake and Bake Fitness and Tanning. This new gym came into town, Iron Mayhem Strength and Conditioning, and they hosted a bench-only meet, non-sanctioned for money. So I went there. I won the meet. Won the money, talked to the gym owner. he was like, hey, you should start training here. And, the facility was much better. And I was like, well, I've still got 2 months left on my pass. At my old gym, you had to buy 3 months at a time as a member there. And he was like, your first 2 months here are free. So, no brainer. And I've been there ever since. My gym is I live in Tennessee. My gym is in Bristol, Virginia. For those of you who don't know, Bristol is a border town. It's right on the border of Virginia and Tennessee. I literally live a quarter mile from the state border, so my gym is just on the Virginia side. Which it works out great because I live in Tennessee where we don't have annual vehicle inspections. We don't have property tax on our vehicles. We don't have a state income tax. So it's fantastic in that sense. And then where Virginia does have all this stuff, they have a lower sales tax. So I go shopping on the Virginia side and live on the Tennessee side. And it works out great. I've trained at Maxed Out Gym, and it's in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is right outside of Knoxville. I've been down there twice, and I've got video footage from there. Pete wasn't there either time I was there, but I've got friends down there. I met a guy who coached me, trained down there with him one time, and then again I've got 5 or 6 friends that live down there, and I try to go down there once a year and live down there with those guys. So, good shit. Yes, I have a 3-year-old son. Someone who's 5'11" can get pretty heavy, right? Well, I'm 5'11", and I'm pretty heavy, so there you go. I think we have a 350-pound stone, I believe is the heaviest. I might be wrong with that. Hold on, David. Let's see. Well, my phone wants to be slow. I was going to look up how much. I'm pretty sure Ray benches like mid 500s, and I think he pulls right around 800, if I'm not mistaken. My phone's being a dick, so I was going to Google it. How do I raise my child to overhead 315 before puberty? I have no clue, buddy. Jesus Christ. Let's see, as Arnold last year, he squatted 1,069, benched 518, and deadlifted 821 pounds. Main account, I didn't use a novice program. I just went to the gym and lifted weights. Sometimes they were heavy, sometimes they were light, sometimes they were a lot of reps, but I just consistently went to the gym and lifted and ate a lot of food. Vlad, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but being that he had the all-time multiply world record and actually, looked legitimately to depth, and then to come back and take the record in reps as well after knee surgery is pretty fucking awesome. David, I don't think that 518 was his best, though. I'm pretty sure he's benched more than that before in competition. I may be wrong. That's just the quick recent numbers I could find from last year. Never had a jousting match with barbells, but that sounds like a pretty fun time. I've never used a cookie cutter program. I like 5x5 as a set and rep scheme, and I like to add an AMRAP on my last set. But as far as particular programming has all been custom for me, either of my own doing or of a coach's doing. I've never run any cookie cutter programs. No, programming is not overrated at all. Again, if you're a noob, if you're a novice, if you're consistently putting in work in the gym and just progressively overloading, you're going to make gains. That's not saying that programming is not important, because you'd probably make better gains with better programming, but it does get more important the more advanced you get. But you don't have to follow a cookie cutter program. Like, you can have individualized programming for yourself. I did too. Chad Wesley Smith had some bad luck, in a couple meets, and I would really like to see him make a comeback. I still think he's kind of a dark horse to put up a bigger total than somebody would expect. Julius Maddox wins that bench off. He's done more when it counts. I think if James Strickland, which he's training full power now, but if he committed on getting a little bit fatter and back to bench only some more, I certainly could see him doing more. But right now, I would put my money on Julius Maddox. I've incline benched 405. That was in like 2014. I don't train incline anymore. And I think I've done 82 push-ups in a row. That may not be on my channel somewhere. They were probably bro push-ups, not full range of motion. So Julius Maddox has a good chance of taking Kirill's record, but I think Kirill still got another big bench in him, because when he broke the record, he did so pretty easily. So I would be interested in that. I think Maddox is young. I don't think he's very old. I don't have a big problem with CrossFit. The only thing I don't like about CrossFit is, the Olympic lifts for high reps in a certain amount of time. I think CrossFit, under the right guidance, is not really all that bad. It's just not as specific, so you're going to be slightly above average in a lot of things, rather than being really good at one thing and maybe not so hot at others. Been lifting for 4 months now. My squat is 245 for a 1-rep max. Do you think squatting 3 times every 2 weeks is too much? I'm going to do 5x8, 5x5, and 5x3 every 2 weeks. I think 3 times every 2 weeks, it's definitely not too much. At your weights, it might be beneficial to squat 4 times in 2 weeks. But definitely not too much at all. I push press 335 pounds is my best push press. I've been training overhead stuff for about 6 months now. 5 months, 6 months, something like that. I have a really big bench press, and it's translated well into overhead stuff. General mobility tips to stay injury-free. Just training smart in general is going to keep you injury-free. Like I said, I've missed 2 lifts over the last 2 years, and both of them were on the platform. Powerlifting specific, you only have to be mobile enough to perform the lifts. I don't believe in hypermobility as it pertains to powerlifting. General fitness in life is a whole nother thing. Just training smart and warming up properly will go a long way. Favorite football team? Assuming you're speaking American football, NFL, Dallas Cowboys, NCAA, Miami Hurricanes. Yeah, Kirill is fucking legit, and when you get to a certain level, it's easier to take time off and come back. and get back to where you were. So even though he's building his federation, if someone were to take his record, I wouldn't put it past him to come back and, put 6 months of training together and, be back where he was. Yes, I've used smelling salts, nose torque. It's just, again, pre-lift hype. Probably more placebo than anything, but when it's competition time, whatever gets you there, gets you there. Who is Johnny One Plate? I'm not aware. Look, my intention has been, and I've said it numerous times over the last couple years, to be done with powerlifting by the time I'm 35 years old. And at that point, definitely cut down to a healthier body weight permanently, not worry about bulking back up for powerlifting, and just training more athletic stuff. I honestly like sports-related, sports-specific athletic type training more than I like powerlifting training. However, I'm competitive. I am good at powerlifting. I'm built well for powerlifting. And once I got into competing, it lit that fire in me. So, but yeah, like I said, 35 years old. I hope I'm done mentally with powerlifting at that time. And then I will focus on getting lighter and more athletic. Which, y'all have seen me training these jumps now for the last few months. I love jumping. I love training shit like that. And much more focus would be devoted to that kind of training after I'm done with powerlifting. Pre-workout, I like coffee and or caffeine pills and bananas. Now, that said, I don't know that I'll necessarily get lean. Just healthy and athletic. Obviously, that will require being at a much lighter body weight. When I used to play basketball every day and I was lean, I wasn't really into lifting yet, but I wasn't like ripped up or shredded neither. I really don't think I have great genetics as far as bodybuilding is concerned. I'm pretty sure I got a lot of muscle mass under here, but the insertions, probably not that great, and my fat distribution isn't that great either. I think a lot of individual powerlifting meets can be sketchy, and I look at it on an individual meet-to-meet basis. So, yeah, it is what it is. That's, why I like where it's going with these U.S. Opens and big dogs and things like that, where you're attracting the top powerlifters to compete against each other. And I would like to see in the future, rather than saying, oh, this is all-time world record holder, blah, 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 you'll see this is 3-time U.S. Open winner, blah, 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 or this is 2-time Big Dog winner, this is the defending Big Dog champ, because that's in essence what powerlifting is. It's competing against the other lifters at the meet. Whereas now with the internet, and even I'm guilty of it to an extent, is people just chasing their own totals, rather than what it really is, which is competing head-to-head with other people. Because it's just so diluted now. There's so many meets and promoters and so many local level meets that you can go somewhere, and a lot of times you're going to be the only person in your weight class anyway, so there's no incentive on going for the win. Whereas something like Big Dogs or the U.S. Open, you're in your weight class, and you and or your coach has to pay attention to what the other lifters are doing, and that's going to influence what weight you call on. So when you're going for your third deadlift, you're going to be more akin to calling for 5 pounds over your next competitor's total, even if it's not a PR deadlift, versus challenging yourself to hit a PR deadlift. You're going to secure that win, win the perhaps money, the prestige of winning whatever powerlifting meet you're at, etc., which is, again, what it's supposed to be, not just chasing a total. Now, powerlifting ain't going to be in the Olympics. It's not. Smoking meth and dipping Copenhagen between 2-inch squats. Squatting and deadlifting in the same day, I prefer to keep them separate. However, my last coach had me doing them both on the same day, and it worked out phenomenally. So it's, some things are not bad or good. It's a lot of things are very individualized, and managing volume and fatigue. Always strong. How long lifting? Music choice. Yeah, I was pretty much like, even in elementary school, I was pretty, stronger than most other kids for the most part. If we were to, like arm wrestle or something like that, or play a game of Mercy, I usually beat most people. How long lifting? I've been seriously training powerlifting now for 6 years, and I had probably about 4 years of bro lifting before that, just benching and curls. Savage Boy, like when I was doing it, I was still programming my bench, my upper body, but the coach I hired him specifically to help my deadlift out, and he had 2 days a week. And the first day I would do a squat variation in high volume and intensity, and then my second lift would be a pull variation, a little bit lower volume and lower intensity. And then the second day I would start with a pull variation, higher volume, higher intensity, and then end with a squat variation, lower volume and lower intensity. And we did that until we started peaking for the meet. Then Spoto got injured or something, right? And he just never came back from the injury, if I remember. I know he got injured. How many calories do I eat a day? Right now, probably, and this is just eyeballing it, about 4,000, 3,500 or 4,000. I'm probably going to start tracking real soon because I'm going to give it 2 more weeks. And I say I'm not seeing the progress I want, even though I'm 10 pounds down from my first weigh-in. But yeah. Favorite band? I don't listen to band music. I like R&B, rap, shit like that. Sade's probably my favorite singer, if that helps. Well, 500 paused at any weight is above average. That's going to get you, on the top 50 list, I'm sure, in a given year. 500 is 500. Just the internet standards now, you see so many much higher lifts from elite lifters, but if you look at go to a gym, there's not going to be many people benching 500. Oh yeah, that Jerry Ward tearing his pec. Holy shit. Ouch. Favorite rapper? Currently, I like A$AP Ferg. All time, probably, I really like Nas a lot. I really like Jay-Z a lot. I really like DMX a lot. I don't know. It's hard to say. But definitely A$AP Ferg right now. Swipe Life. Alpha Destiny collab in the future. Highly doubtful. That's a way to stop high school kids from bullying you. Stay away from high schools. I've not heard enough of Ab-Soul. I really don't listen to a lot of new music. Like, I'm 32 years old. Most of the music I listen to is music from when I was growing up, which would be my parents' music onto my music. So really, like late 70s through early 2000s is my sweet spot for music. Like I said, rap, R&B. I like 80s pop. I like freestyle. I like some fucking girly ass dumb music from the 80s and 90s. Again, what I grew up on, I guess that nostalgia factor is hard these days. And that's, what I typically resort to. Best way to make gains as an intermediate, go to the gym, lift consistently, and eat food. Yeah, Cyndi Lauper's fucking great. Girls just want to have fun. Damn right. I've really been fortunate to stay relatively injury free. I hurt my wrist one time doing box jumps. I had the boxes outside. I fell head over heels, and I sprained my wrist. And then I strained my back mildly at a meet one time, but I've never had like a major injury that kept me out for any amount of time. I think people treat me differently since I've got massive. I really don't. I'm not massive. Like, I'm strong, but if you saw me in Walmart or something, I just look like an average dude. So like, people aren't like, oh, look at that big guy. I just look like a regular fat American in clothes. When you're bulking, do you just poop all day? I try to hold it to 2 poops a day, like 1 in the morning and 1 at night. Just massive ones. That's half joking, half serious, by the way. If I have a winged scapula, should I first correct it before starting lifting or do it together? I have no fucking clue. Not a doctor, not a coach, not a physician, none of that shit. I'm not really a big fan of Taco Bell. Contrary to my physique, Taco Bell's really. I don't like fast food a lot. Period. I like McCafe, like their coffee drinks and stuff. But I consume massive quantities of food, whether it be clean food or I have a sweet tooth. I like baked goods, pastries, things like that. Not really a fast food junkie though. Do I ever want to get lean? I really don't ever care about getting lean. I plan on getting to a healthy body weight one day. But as far as like being lean and shredded, that is really meaningless to me. Do people get intimidated by you when you're out in public? Not really. If shit goes down and I raise my voice and get angry, which is very rare, yeah, I can intimidate people. But I'm not like this just massive guy walking around that people are just like, oh no, Godzilla! So yeah. I can easily wear jeans. I have my mother's hips. I wear like a 44-inch waist, so the legs are plenty big. I have no problems wearing jeans. Marvel or DC, whichever is the one with the X-Men. Is that Marvel? I'm not a comic guy. Not really into the movies. I've watched the X-Men movies. I watched the X-Men cartoon when I was little, so whichever one is the X-Men one, which I think is Marvel. I am an operations manager at a logistics company. We have 35 trucks in total, 25 over the road, and then 10 local. That's what I do. I am an operations manager. Ejaculation versus the first time you use the lacrosse ball to release a knot in your back. Again, something I can't compare because I've never used a lacrosse ball to release a knot. I have a wife to rub knots out. Never considered becoming a superhero. Where do you recommend someone train lizard crawls if they're tired of being bullied by high school kids? At an elementary, so you can be bullied by elementary school kids instead. I know this is an Alpha Destiny thing to say, but I had way more jacked legs when I was a sprinter than when I lift. I actually was listening to another. I like the Juggernaut podcasts, and they were talking about training like field competitors and shit like that. And they mentioned sprinters and how the forces being applied are much, much greater, albeit for very shorter amounts of times than powerlifting. And it's not even close. So that's not really a stretch to hear somebody say they had bigger legs than they were sprinting than when they lift. You know, for that simple reason. Time face, if you're 25 years old or older, you have at least 2 years over-the-road driving experience, 2 out of the last 3 years verifiable over-the-road driving experience, and a clean NVR, and you're in the Eastern Tennessee area, I can hire you. Do you ever just eat a whole Greek yogurt pot? I have. I've got Greek yogurt in my refrigerator, not Greek yogurt, just regular yogurt in my refrigerator right now, but yes, I've eaten a whole tub of Greek yogurt. I am never getting lean. When I'm 35, I will hopefully be done with powerlifting and I will get down to a more healthy body weight, but I'm never going to be lean. Increase bench tips besides frequency. Without seeing your bench, maybe there's some technical flaws there, but as far as I'm concerned, the best way to increase bench is the bench press. It always has been, always will be. If you're not hammering your upper back with accessory work, you might be lacking there. But, you know, without, like I said, being able to see technical flaws in your bench press more. Would I fight Jason Blaha? I have no reason to fight Jason Blaha, but I am also supremely confident that I would beat the fuck out of him if it happened. Kriakos Grizzly would probably fuck me up. I've actually seen his recent videos training kickboxing. Pleasantly surprised and amazed with the mobility and, you know, the aesthetics of his punches and kicks. Didn't see that coming at all. Pretty fucking hilarious. Upper back tips, chest supported rows, lat pull downs, cable rows, face pulls, dumbbell rows, high volume, high frequency. No, I don't think Blaha was a former Merc at all. Yeah, Kriakos Grizzly, like, as dumb as some of the shit is that I've seen posted from him, like, some of the cool shit is fucking mind-blowing. Look, I have no problem with Phil, but that's another one I'm pretty supremely confident I would whip his ass if the situation lent itself. Again, no problem with Phil. Don't mean that in a derogatory manner, but yeah, I would destroy Phil. You have a 6-inch wrist. I don't see that being a problem. I don't. He's a silverback. There it is. Oh, shit. Mark Bell at this stage, yeah, I think I would take him. Fat Mark Bell would be a better fight. Eric would destroy me. Eric was a D1 collegiate wrestler. Yes, like I said, I default to Eric as my he would be my YouTube fitness champion. I would pick him over pretty much everybody, including myself. I am not a D1 collegiate wrestler. Do not have near the experience. Eric would have me on my back before I knew what happened. That's pretty easy. Reason for staying natty, mainly I have a family and the legalities involved, and then kind of secondarily, I've never really plateaued hard. I've still seen great gains, and I want to keep competing. The option to compete in tested feds. I compete untested feds as well, just out of convenience and location, but I do want to keep the option of competing tested and not being a cheater. I have no clue about connective tissue training. Couldn't say one way or the other. Thoughts on unconventional lifts nonsense. Look, the unconventional lifts, people are using them to feel stronger than they are. That's the bottom line. Like, is there some merit to training them? I'm sure there's some merit to training them. I'm sure some of them can help in some way, in life or with sports, whatever. However, what I've seen done on the internet with unconventional lifts is people using it to move weights that make them appear stronger than they are. Mark Bell does seem like he'd be like an angry guy off camera. I can see that. I don't know why either, but that makes a lot of sense. Brian Al-Saruhi, whatever his name is, I think I've seen maybe 2 videos of his. From what I can tell, he is an extremely strong guy. Seems like a nice guy. And he's probably got a good chance of beating me up, I'm sure. Thoughts on installing squat rack in the bedroom? Just make sure to go deep, or she's not going to be happy about it. Pissing in the morning with morning wood versus the first squat of the day and your knees make orgasmic cracking sound. Oh, goodness. Pissing with morning wood is hard. So hard. It's extremely hard. Oh, there's Anonymous. Maybe rack pulls above the... No, like a different diet would make me look like I lift. Alex, my squat has always kind of been not always, but recently has been stronger than my deadlift. I'm guessing you're a bigger guy. That's usually the case. So, yeah. Yeah, insanity. I've had 6 or 7 Miatas over the last 3 or 4 years. And I've been in the 300-pound range. And I've had one of my training partners who was 6'4", 300 pounds in the passenger seat. Big guys can fit in Miatas. They're surprisingly roomy inside. Yeah, but Kalka, he's always been a bench-only guy, though. He's trained his bench way more than he's trained his squats and deadlifts. But I'm pretty sure if you look back in his channel, he's got some videos squatting, I want to say 600s, close to 700. The depth may be a little but he's done some of the other lifts. He's just a bench guy. That's what he does. Any reason to do low bar over a high bar if I'm just doing bodybuilding? For bodybuilding purposes, I have no idea. Again, not my forte, so my bad, homie. A used 350Z. Look, I will buy any used car if I feel like I can get it for a price that I can resell it for more money. So I've driven a 350Z convertible, fun cars to drive. If that's what you're into, certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. That's for those not in the know. I've bought and sold cars on the side as a little bit of a side hustle. So I've driven a lot of different cars. I own a 1955 Chevy Bel Air two-door sedan. There's a couple videos on my channel driving it around. That's sort of my investment / money pit. But yeah, I like cars. Yes, I take my shirt off at the pool. I think Josh Bryant is a great coach. He's got a pretty good stable of lifters. The whole gas station ready thing is kind of funny, but, you know, he's a good coach. Zero title defenses. What is the serious question? Thoughts on Bugenhagen recommending the dumbbell OHP versus the barbell? Doesn't he have bad shoulders or something, though? I think he mentioned that as why he said that. It's look, a lot of everything is goal dependent. So if you're trying to get stronger at the barbell OHP, then you're going to barbell OHP. If you're trying to develop huge shoulders, maybe you go a different route. I appreciate that I has methods. I like hearing things like that. It's not necessarily my goal to inspire people, but if you find inspiration from me, then that's awesome. I appreciate that. Ever going to get into single ply to save your joints? No, I think, like I said, I have a plan to stop powerlifting by the time I'm 35. And I hope by that point I have accomplished a 2,000 pound raw with wraps total. And then at that point my training will change and I'll have no reason to get into single ply or keep powerlifting. When you decide to use an extra long pause on your last working set of bench to look cool amongst your silverback peers versus squatting and pausing for 20 minutes to impress your warrior friends. You guys are too much. Do I ride bicycles? I've not ridden a bicycle in a long time. I like riding bicycles, but it's not something I've done in a long time. Me and my wife were actually talking about getting bicycles. I live right next to a state park. There's a trail behind my house that goes in the state park. Beautiful state park. I go walking the trails a lot, and I think it'd probably be fun to go riding our bikes. Get one of those little pull behinds for my son. Would I like to be a coach by then? I don't see myself ever coaching. I've done some online programming, and I will probably do some more online programming. But once I'm done with powerlifting, I'm probably just going to be done with powerlifting. I might still judge some meets. I really like judging a lot, but I doubt if I'd coach. Probably just online programming. Conventional, stiff leg, conventional, Monday, Wednesday. If you're going to deadlift 3 times a week, which I don't recommend, you better keep careful track of the volume in each session and make sure it's not too much. I've never practiced hook grip. I think I've done hook grip 1 or 2 deadlift sessions, and I really didn't care for it, and I don't really feel like learning new things. David, as weird as it sounds, dude, Yuri, I would pick Yuri to beat it if anybody were going to beat it. But yeah, it'll take longer for somebody to deadlift 1,050 than it will take somebody to squat 1,100 without wraps, I imagine. $170 with a 365 deadlift. Is it possible to increase to 405 while I keep cutting to 160? It's certainly possible. I mean, then I'm not saying this to be mean. That's not like a big deadlift or anything, so I don't see any reason why you still couldn't get more proficient at the movement and drop another 10 pounds. I've competed at as heavy as 304 pounds, and my best deadlift in competition was at 270 pounds body weight. Eddie does get a lot of out of straps. Not to say that his grip is weak, but I think it's more that you can get in a better starting position with straps and the double overhand than you can setting an over-under grip. How would I feel if Coach Blaha were to judge a meet you were participating in? I would treat it like any other meet. Yeah, Eddie's grip doesn't suck. It's just, you know, what did he do? He did a push-pull. Didn't he deadlift right around 900 in a powerlifting push-pull meet, if I'm not mistaken? So he had to use over-under in that. He couldn't use straps. I mean, anybody who can hang on to a fucking 800, 900 pound deadlift, you know, doesn't have a weak grip. Again, I think the straps are more so, like I said, you get a better starting position. And I'll agree, yeah, it's a far cry from 10-15, but anybody deadlifting over 900 pounds does not have a weak grip who's deadlifting it, you know, in a powerlifting competition where straps aren't allowed. Thoughts on Monster Blaha Bulgarian method? I'm personally not a huge fan of Bulgarian. I think it can be fun, but I think you're so much better off with training some more volume than you are just working up to, you know, a single every day. There's a reason that 0 top powerlifters are running Bulgarian. So yeah. Yeah, when Benny pulled 10-15, you know, that's by far and away, with all due respect to Eddie, that's the best deadlift in history that's ever been done. And it's not even close. Yes, Bulgarian as a peaking program, I will give it, it has its merits there. But running it year round, I don't see it. I don't think it's a great program to run all the time. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that 100%. There aren't any elite strongmen with shit grips. Yes, I drink chocolate milk. It's fucking delicious. Yeah, upper lower splits can be good. There's a lot of different training methods that can be good. A lot of it is how you manage fatigue and volume, and how you rest and recover. Yeah, it's potato, apple, oranges. You know, Eddie's was a strongman, and he pulled more in strongman, and Benny's was in powerlifting, and he's got the biggest pull in powerlifting. Tips on how to get chicks, as cliche as it sounds, fucking be confident and be yourself. As you get older, being financially secure is certainly a good thing. But just be you, man. I met my wife. We both worked at a shopping mall. I was an assistant manager at Foot Action. She was an assistant manager at Piercing Pagoda, and we were mall rats. I think I ended up working at 3 different stores in that mall. She ended up working at like 5 different stores in that mall. But, yep, been together almost 11 years now. So I'm probably not the right person to ask how to get chicks because I've been out of the game for fucking 11 years. Oh, I'm still getting notifications, people commenting on my apology video. Jesus Christ. Do I think Kaylor Woolham is too explosive? He's been having issues with lockouts due to whip. He also has really nice lats. You know, as I started reading your comment, I was about to say there's really nothing. You can't be too explosive, but I get that in regards to deadlifting and the bar whip, especially on a deadlift bar. But I still wouldn't say he's too explosive. He just needs to. And I am not one to be giving him advice on deadlift, but it's something I have problems with myself because I am an explosive puller. Not to his level, but, you know, I like to jerk the bar and just put all explosion into it. And the whip at 650, 660 pounds versus the whip at, you know, 900 pounds is much, much different. So it would probably do him good to make better use of the bar and not necessarily be less explosive, but just focus more on pulling that slack out before starting the pull. Who is Martin Burkham? Let me look this person up. Like I said, outside of the recent happenings within the community, I really don't pay much attention to the YouTube community. Let's look at this Martin Burkham guy's Instagram. He's pretty diced. I don't know, does he claim natty and does he get drug tested ever? Does he compete drug tested? I really don't like saying the natty or not things. He's shredded and vascular. Whatever the case, he's certainly worked hard. Don't know. I'm not an expert there neither. I can't just call it based on looks. Is Greg Knuckles a fake natty? I don't think so. Don't think so. Could be wrong, but I don't think he is. Yeah, I've rolled the bar on deads too. Get a little bit of a gut. Helps to get into position. YouTube card deadlift accident. Let's see. Card deadlift accident. Is it a 6-year-old video? Woo! Good Lord. Yeah, that's the one I just watched. Yeah. Holy shit. That was rough. Whoo! That was rough. God damn. You think a 160-pound kid doing 3/8 rack pulls 600 making noise and bending bars should be kicked out of the gym? Honestly, as a gym owner, not I'm a gym owner, but if I was a gym owner, I would not allow rack pulls. That's actually one of the very few things that's not allowed at my gym. We're not allowed rack pulls for that very reason. Pre-workout, I like coffee and bananas. Annihilator, go look it up, dude. That was terrible. When I get real deep into my cuts, I like to have Gatorade and protein powder intra-workout. When I'm bulking or maintaining, I really don't pay it much mind because I'm eating a lot of food anyway. Silverbacks, Jesus Christ. Bananas are fucking legit, good carb fuel. I like cutting fast because I hate being in a caloric deficit. It really affects my training, so I just try to get it over with and out of the way. It's probably not as efficient, but if you're not going to adhere to something, it doesn't really matter what's efficient anyway, because adherence is number one. Like I said, my cut last year, I made a whole playlist that's like called 2016 If Cut or something like that, intermittent fasting. I cut a little under 40 pounds, right around 40 pounds in 100 days. Barbell issues during the U.S. Open found at White Ding Dong White Monsters. They would use that whole meet between the bars and the platform. It seems was poorly executed, especially a meet of that level. I like MMA. I don't follow it as closely as I have. I watched more back in the Pride days and when UFC first started to get big. I've not watched so much lately. I'm much more a casual fan now, but back then I used to watch like every pay-per-view. We'd either order it or go out to eat and watch it, etc. I don't know enough about the Wisconsin method to say. I've not seen enough on it to say. So I've already said I'm not really a big fan of Bulgarian as a year-round program. For peaking, it's fine, but if it's anything like actual Bulgarian, then I probably don't particularly care for it as a year-round program. Yeah, that is when the Yakuza ran Pride. I like Pride for the fact, yes, the soccer kicks to a grounded opponent to the head were fucking amazing, and then I liked that they would do like the open weight tournaments. And they would do like the circus fights. They'd have people like Hong Min Choi, that fucking Zulu Zinho guy or whatever. I loved that shit. Was fucking awesome. I loved the old Pride FC days. Do I think I can beat up Conor McGregor? No. He would destroy me. My only chance would be a bear hug and fall down on top of him. Would be my only chance. No, never ever would allow that in North America. It's funny that like the early UFC had that no holds barred type of shtick. But as a legitimate sport, no, America would never ever really have it. Yeah, I've got 100 pounds on him, but his skill is here. And my skill is under the camera somewhere. Like I said, I would hope to be able to bear hug him and lay down on top of him. I'm 5'11". Yeah, Hoist Gracie and the gi in the early on. And it was, what was the only rules? Like no eye gouging? Was that the only rule? No eye gouging maybe? God, yeah, everything else went fucking like you could punch people in nuts and shit. Yeah, shit was wild. There's a good article somewhere on the internet that I've read before, and I can't remember where it's at, about UFC 1, and about like people that they tried to get to come to it, trying to find the fighters to make it happen and everything. A really good, really interesting article. I'm sure if you searched like UFC 1, I don't know, that article would pop up again somewhere. I forget where I found it. Moonshine versus Jack Daniels. Why not both? I have heard of GZCL. I've never looked into it. What program will you suggest to a 15-year-old starting strength training? Is calisthenics enough? It's goal dependent. And at 15, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. You can probably start using a barbell. But it's goal dependent. What are your goals? Calisthenics are fantastic. Yeah, K1 was pretty legit too. Fucking Ernesto Hoost was a beast when he broke Bob Sapp's orbital. And, you know, RIP Bob Sapp. Like, he should have been the most dominant person ever just based on looks. How bad is alcohol for lifting for real? I think alcohol regularly and in high doses especially is probably not too great for life in general, much less lifting. I want a physique like Tyron Woodley. How do I get it? Be born with Tyron Woodley's genetics and train like Tyron Woodley. Yeah, back when they were allowed to wear fucking wrestling shoes and shit. Who was it? Mark Coleman got fucking kicked the fuck out. Dude had on a pair of wrestling shoes, kicked him in the face. I can't remember who it was that saved my life neither. Wasn't it? It was one of Ken Shamrock's fighters, one of the Lions Den fighters that kicked the fuck out of Mark Coleman. Big time upset, if I'm remembering right. Thoughts on using gloves while lifting? Don't. Thoughts on people saying size and strength doesn't matter in a fight. Here's the thing. Size and strength aren't the be-all, end-all in a fight, but they most certainly can make a difference. And if the size and strength gap is enough, it can certainly overcome a more skilled opponent to some extent. Now, like I said, Conor McGregor's skill level versus my strength and size, I would pick Conor McGregor just because his skill is out of this world. Now, that said, Conor McGregor's skill level versus Brock Lesnar's skill level, where the skill levels are closer, Conor McGregor is still much more skilled than Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar's size and strength, along with that closer skill gap, he would fucking destroy Conor McGregor. So yes, it matters, but it's not necessarily the be-all, end-all. I would say Conor McGregor probably can't bench 225, but he doesn't need to. I stopped playing sports after middle school. I played soccer, basketball, baseball, and volleyball to some degree through middle school. Then in high school, I discovered pussy and weed, and I got really lazy. Should a first-time lifter do conventional deadlift right away? A first-time lifter, I don't know. I'm not an expert there. It's probably not for me to say. I would imagine they should probably be proficient in a couple other movements before going to a conventional deadlift, simply because of the risk of injury. I think Khabib's going to beat Conor if that happens. Yes, I've seen John Jones deadlift. I have. I thought it was low sixes, like right at 600 if I'm not mistaken. Ugly looking deadlifts, but strong nonetheless. Messi or Ronaldo? My favorite footballer is actually Brazilian Ronaldo from the 90s, Brazilian national teams. As far as now, I think I would take Messi. Just what he can do with the ball. I think Ronaldo's a better striker, but Messi's more creative. No, I didn't drop out of high school. I just quit playing sports. I went to high school. I got my diploma. Like I said, I got more interested in pussy and weed, and sports would detract from my free time to pursue those. Yeah, I would say a trap bar is a much safer place to start somebody than a conventional deadlift. I don't follow Premier League. Like if I'm flipping through the channels, and then they're generally on like at 2 in the morning and shit here. I don't follow it closely. I watch the World Cup when the World Cup comes around. That's really the only time I watch international football. Again, if I'm flipping through the TV channels and there's nothing on or something, or I catch a Premier League game, a match, I'll watch it. But I'm not like heavily invested in it. Speaking of, my little brother is a goalie for his high school. They just went undefeated in their regular season. He's had 4 clean sheets in a row to end the season. And they started their regional tournament Friday night. I don't know how he did yet or not, but be interested to see. Pussy is amazing, but I'm wasting my time chasing it. Feel your pain, bro. Would Brock beat up Jon Jones in your opinion? Ooh, man. I think prime Jon Jones versus prime Brock at heavyweight, obviously, and Jon Jones not cutting weight. And Jon Jones is deceptively strong, much like Anderson Silva. I think I take Jones, and I think that's something where if they fought 10 times, maybe Jones wins 6 and Brock wins 4. But I would take Jon Jones there. I just think Jon Jones is a phenom, especially in his prime. That's a solid matchup. I would have liked to see that happen. I don't have any World Cup predictions. Again, like I said, I only watched during the World Cup. And growing up, I gravitated towards Brazil just because they played the beautiful game and it was awesome to watch. Low-key liked Italy too. They were always solid on the defensive end. Buffon is one of my favorite goalies. Him and who was the goalie for Mexico back in the day? Was it Jorge Campos maybe? Like them two a lot. But yeah, I only watch it like around World Cup time, but you know, I get into it during the World Cup for sure. Brock and Jon Jones is such an intriguing matchup. I do think Jones is better. I don't think I could pick him 9 out of 10 times. Like, Brock's such a good technical wrestler, and Jones is so aggressive. There's a strong chance of him getting caught and grounded and pounded. Didn't Rene Higuita, he used to do those scorpion saves, right? For Colombia, if I'm not mistaken. That's a little before my time, but I have seen like some old footage. I've watched the 30 for 30 on the Tale of Two Escobars, the one that ESPN put out. The best intermediate program is to consistently train, consistently get good rest, and consistently eat high quality food. I got serious about lifting about 6 years ago. My favorite cardio is the elliptical machine, by far and away. I was 26 years old when I got serious into training. I found out about powerlifting, and when I first started pursuing powerlifting, I was benching 440, 435, and I squatted 300 pounds, and I deadlifted 315 pounds. I had done a lot of bro benching and curling before I knew what powerlifting was. I would take Ben and Jerry's. Cali Muscle versus Rich Piana. I'm gonna go with Cali Muscle just because he has the prison experience. Sorry about that. I was messaging somebody there. Right now I'm doing hang cleans, and I'm just doing them as a grip exercise. I don't practice like the Olympic lifts as they are in competition. Do I think Koklayev is the greatest strength athlete of all time? It's hard to not think that. The only other comparable person I think would be Mark Henry, and Mark Henry was untapped potential. I think Mark Henry would have been the greatest had he pursued it and been more serious about his training. Obviously, he made the right financial decision in going to the WWF at the time, which now WWE. But yeah, Koklayev, you got to say he's the greatest strength athlete of all time. And again, Mark Henry, just a step down, and probably would have been better had he pursued it more. I do like him thick. Front squats or back squats for athletic purposes. Whichever one you're, moving the most explosively. I'd say you should probably do both. I don't know if one's greater than the other for athletics. Is row, bench, and curl enough for a guy on a tight schedule with a job carrying heavy shit all day? It depends what your goals are, man. Have a good one, Mohammed. Yes, I lolled at your pick, bruh. Alright, well, my phone's at 15% battery, so if you have any last questions, I'll probably stay on here for like 2 or 3 more minutes, so send them in. I've never ever tried raw garlic. Jesus Christ, 15% battery, 15% body fat, bare mode. Holy shit. Oh, if you add those two 15s and get 30%, then there I am. Have a good one, Savage Boy. Appreciate you tuning in, watching, asking. The Gucci Flocka Promethazine. There we go. Do I think Alpha Destiny faked the overhead press? I think it's suspect. I'm not going to throw it out there that he faked it because I've already had to eat my words once. The filming of it, what was uploaded to YouTube is suspect, and I'll leave it at that. Hypermobile elbows. Oh, goodness. Simplest. If you're just trying to get a thick upper body, then yeah, I think rows, bench, and curls, and eating food is probably fine. Yes, training partners can be a big help being motivated. At my old gym, when I was at a commercial gym, I would love for it to be empty when I got there. Going at my gym now with other people who train powerlifting and strongman and take their training serious, I love when there's people there, and I hate when it's empty. I do bodybuilding training in my off seasons when I'm training for powerlifting. I just don't do bodybuilding diet. I've been subscribed to Blaha since Ice Cream Fitness days. Uh, like when I cut weight, when I get real serious about my cuts and my diets, I do minimize fat intake, and keep my carbs and protein high, and I keep the carbs specifically around training. So, I've never ran a higher fat cut, so I can't compare the two. But I love cutting fats out when I cut. Because it's the most calorically dense macro, so I feel like you get more bang for your buck, and it's easier to adhere to a higher carb, higher protein diet. And I eat the fuck out of potatoes and drink the fuck out of egg whites. I think Blaha, for the most part, gives good advice, as regurgitated as it is. So, yeah. But anyway, thanks everybody who tuned in. Thanks for the questions. Again, I left a Q&A thread a couple videos ago. I will film the answers to that probably next Sunday. Hope you guys have a nice evening.